Johnson impersonation with a black turtleneck today. Hey everyone, it is Top of the Line. Happy to be back with you guys. Colin, Cowherd, Jason, McIntyre. Let's do this. We just came on air, and a couple seconds before that, I was going off about how upset I was that the Chiefs couldn't cover a 3.5 point spread. So let's get into a quick recap of how you guys did last week. Colin, 2-2. You got the Seahawks tonight. Right?
I do. The Seattle tends to play really good on the road under Pete Carroll. 10 of the last 11 they've won. I also think they have an emerging pass rush with Carlos Dunlap, Jamal Adams, and L.J. Collier. So, and I don't know what the Eagles are offensively. Jalen Hurts gets a dozen snaps tonight. I'd rather not debut that against the Pete Carroll team. So I'll take Seattle to cover. But it was a good weekend for dogs.
Very good.
Jace, you're sitting at 2-3, and you got to eat. You're on the other side of the game tonight. We'll get into that in a second. Also, my face is very red in this monitor. I'm not sure. I'm not running a fever, so don't worry if you are. I want a quick reminder for you guys to play the Fox Super 6 app. Of course, all year long we were talking about giving away that $1 million. 8 lucky people last week split the $1 million. They had a great Thanksgiving in those households. So now, don't worry, you can still win $100,000. That's not chump change right there. If you pick the outcome of 6 games by 1 p.m. Eastern on Sundays, download the app, Fox Super 6 app, play for free. All right, let's get into it, shall we? When you take a quick glance at this board, Jason, I want to start with you. What stands out right away?
All right, Carissa, I count 1-2 double-digit underdogs. It looks like the Vikings are going to be a double-digit favorite. So we're looking at 3 big spreads. Pittsburgh headed toward a 10. This is shaping up to be one of those weekends where everybody wants to back a big favorite. And we know the underdogs, as Colin said, were barking this past weekend. I mean, we're getting to December, Carissa. It's tough to take some of these ugly dogs, and they haven't fared well this season. Double-digit underdogs, 7-8-1 against the spread.
Colin, what stands out on those things? We'll break down, a majority of this game, but what just jumps out at you right away?
That I like some of the numbers with teams that are good but played poorly. Rams and Colts. Those teams are good teams that had a bad Sunday, but I'm going to back them this week.
Okay, perfect. Let's get into it. First game up, we got Cleveland and Tennessee, and we're looking at 4.5 with a point total of 54.5. Colin, who do you like and why?
Well, I take Cleveland in the points. I think Tennessee comes off. They've been a little seesaw this year, and they come off, a really, really big win, very convincing, and they don't have a terrific pass rush. And when Baker Mayfield is not rushed, he's fairly effective. So I think Tennessee wins the game at 4.5. It's just too rich. I would take the Browns.
Okay.
All right. I'm firmly on the other side here. First of all, I was on the Browns against the Jags, and I watched Cleveland's defense, Carissa, let Mike Glennon, who hasn't started a game in forever, go up and down the field like it was nothing against the Cleveland Browns defense. And maybe they get Myles Garrett back this week, but no Denzel Ward, no Ronnie Harrison. This is an 8-3 Browns team with a point differential of -21. Okay, they win a lot of close to games against bad teams. This feels like another Derrick Henry. I'll take 150 yards and we'll win easily. I know it's sketchy to take the Titans as big favorites, 4.5, but this is a bad matchup on paper for the Browns.
Well, I don't know, because the Titans have scored 75 points over the last 2 games. So I like the over in this one as well. All right, game number 2 for us. We're looking at the Giants and the Seahawks. Of course, that injury news to the Giants, big blow for them. Daniel Jones banged up. When you're looking at 7.5 and 49.5, Colin, who you like and why?
Well, if Daniel Jones doesn't play, I would swallow the 7.5 and take Seattle. They will be on a short week. That worries me. Fly all the way back west. But if Daniel Jones is available, I'd take the Giants. If he's not, I'd take the Seahawks. Much like the rest of this year, I look at injuries and COVID situations, and I don't think they're dynamic enough. Colt McCoy never done particularly well with pressure. Pete Carroll loves to dial up the pressure. But if Daniel Jones is available, I think the Giants are a tough out. I like their defensive front. I think they've shown their offensive line is one of the most improved offensive lines in the league over the last 2 years. They've done a really good job on their front.
Yeah.
This offensive line couldn't get left tackle right. They went and got that OBJ trade, got themselves one of the better guards in the league. They've drafted it well. So I kind of like where they're at. And then they got Andrew Thomas, the kid out of Georgia. So I think they've really done a nice job to solidify and improve their offensive and defensive lines. So what is the very latest on Daniel Jones?
Yeah, it sounds like a hamstring injury could be available Sunday, but I'm going to guess no. If he doesn't go, it's Colt McCoy, as you said. I was watching Sunday. I was the one guy who watched Bengals Giants, that slop fest. And the second that Daniel Jones went out, I joked on social media, I wouldn't trust Colt McCoy to pick up my mail while I was on vacation. And all these people got angry, like, oh, it's Colt McCoy. Guys, he's a 34-year-old journeyman, okay? And, of course, what does he do? He does not get the cover against the Bengals. I think Seattle puts it on him. And this is a Giants defense that's ranked 29th against the pass, okay? You'll love this. These are the quarterbacks they face. Mitch Trubisky, Nick Mullins, Kyle Allen, Brandon Allen, Alex Smith, and Carson Wentz twice. So they face no quarterbacks, and they stink. Russell Wilson should light them up. I like Seattle here. I'm with Colin.
All right, moving on to game 3 for us. We're going to go Rams at the Cardinals. 2.5. Great NFC West battle here and a 47.5 point total. Colin, who do you like?
Well, Rams are a good team that played awful football. I'd swallow it and I'd take the Rams here. I think they have a coaching edge. And frankly, I think if you really look at what the Rams did yesterday, it was just turnovers. I like what Los Angeles is doing on the back end of their defense. I think they've drafted the secondary extremely well. And Jared Goff, when he's comfortable, is really effective. Yesterday he got banged around, and he wasn't. He will be comfortable against Arizona. This is one of my favorite bets of the week. I'd take the Rams.
Okay, before I dive in, I got to ask you, Colin, this whole McVay-Goff situation, okay? You heard McVay come out after the game, and he was not happy. I'm sure, Carissa, you heard it, the turnovers. He was really going after Goff. Does that factor into your handicap? Because I like the Rams as well, but is Goff going to be shaken by what his coach is saying about him and all the turnovers recently?
No, I think Goff's pretty mentally, physically stable. He got beaten up at Cal, never missed games. I think his dad was a Major League Baseball player. I think Goff's emotional discipline, I think his stability is one of the things I like about him. So my point is he can take coaching. He can take hard coaching.
I like some of the stuff, Carissa. I think you interviewed Cliff Kingsbury. Other Fox folks have. He seems like a great guy. I've got to just push back against this coaching in close game situation. He cost him the game against Miami. Close game, settles for the kicker shanks it. Another one yesterday against the Patriots, that end of the first half debacle. And then the end of the game, settling for the kicker misses again. I mean, listen, maybe it's because I'm holding on to a futures ticket. I bet Arizona to make the playoffs. And, it's kind of blowing up in my face here. I like this team a lot. But this Kyler Murray shoulder, did you guys notice? He wasn't running the football against the Patriots. They are 1-8-1 when Kyler Murray doesn't rush for 30 yards. Yesterday, he doesn't run at all, and then he ends up with 31 yards, but that's not going to cut it. And they lost again. Very down on Arizona right now. I'm with Colin. I would jump on the Rams.
Okay, and just to go back to Jared Goff. Jared Goff reminds me a lot of and I say this with love because I love Jared Goff, but reminds me a lot of my nephew who's 7. I was like, hey, Jake, don't stop doing that. Don't act like a twerp. Get it together. And he's like, okay. That's like Jared Goff, where it's like, you're like, hey, pull it together, do your thing, whatever. And he's like, okay. He's not offended by anything. He's just really into that next play mentality. So yeah. I think he's fun on that. Eagles Green Bay is our next game, and we're looking at 7 and 50.5 here. Colin?
Well, it depends on if Green Bay can block Fletcher Cox. Again, Green Bay is very much, when they're comfortable, they're terrific. Against the Bears, Aaron Rodgers, Akeem Hicks out, didn't face a lot of pressure. They got a lead. That's when Aaron is wonderful. Fletcher Cox disrupts some things. I want to see Philadelphia play tonight, and then I'll make my judgment on this. I feel like the under in this game plays out. I think Philadelphia's corners can slow down Devontae Adams. But, we've got to be honest about Green Bay. They were 13-3 last year. It looks like they're going to go 13-3 or 12-4 this year. They're winning a lot of football games. They're not physical, but they jump on teams in the first half. LaFleur, I think, has done a better job of second half coaching. So if it stays at 7, I'd probably lean Green Bay. I want to watch the Eagles tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. And the other thing to watch is some of the reports trickling out of Philly this week about how the owner was coming and sitting in on meetings and walking out silently, like maybe he wasn't happy. Peterson really going after Carson Wentz in practice. Philadelphia, this game tonight, Colin, is going to speak volumes. I wouldn't touch the Eagles next week, but let's see. Maybe they show up and they right the ship here. But I don't get Green Bay.
I don't trust the Eagles at all.
I don't either, yeah.
Who are they? Every week I feel like I'm getting something else, and it's never good. So
yeah,
whatever. Game 5. We're moving on. We're looking at the Colts and the Texans here, guys. 2.5 on this one, Colin, and a point total of 54.
It's one of my favorite plays of the week. Much like the Rams, I think the Colts are a good, solid team that was humiliated, physically punished. They'll come out to prove a point. I'll take the Colts minus 2.5. I like the over. And I put my happy face on games I really like.
Your face only pops up when you're really excited, apparently.
Yes.
Yeah, I like them. I like good teams that played bad football. And I think the Colts, what they do is what Houston can struggle with, which is sometimes defending the run. So I'll take the over in the Colts. I would bet this thing twice.
Okay, so I like the Colts, but Colin, this is a risky spot. If you remember, the injuries against the Titans this past week were massive. 3 starters on defense were out. Derrick Henry ran all over the place. Their left tackle got hurt. The kid Costanzo, no relation to Frank Costanzo of Seinfeld fame. If he's out, that is significant for Phillip Rivers. He was missing his center. He's got the banged up toe.
But remember, they had some COVID player. They
Buckner on the defensive line.
So the Colts this week were not fully staffed. So you didn't really get a true representation on the Colts. A lot of those guys come back.
And the other thing, Deshaun Watson, quietly, one of the hottest quarterbacks in the league. Last 6 games, 15 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now, I know he's shredding the bottom feeders like Jacksonville and Detroit. Still, though, he's playing well. And we just saw Tannehill and Derrick Henry play well. But this is a wait and see for me. If Costanzo's out, though, I'm not taking the Colts. Now, Colin, if this were 3, Indy favored by 3, I think that would have meant something more than 2.5. I think that means sharp money is coming in on Houston here, not giving the Colts the respect of the 3-point favorite.
Jason, you mentioned for Anthony Costanzo, it's a serious knee injury that's being reported. So since we're talking about wagering, my money is on that he will not be playing, but we'll see how that progresses. Moving on, we're looking at the Bills and the 49ers. Of course, the 49ers news is that they're not able to play it at home. So this game will be played in Arizona. We're looking at 2.5 and 48 for the total points here. Colin, who'd you like?
Again, I like a lot of 2.5 point favorites this week. I'd take Buffalo. I thought they really played well against the Chargers. It was a Hail Mary at the end of the game, makes it look closer. I thought they thoroughly beat the Chargers, although they couldn't block Joey Bosa. God, he was completely dominant. But I think San Francisco is, you got Kyle Shanahan, offensive coach, Sean McDermott, defensive coach. And I think Buffalo's playing for more. San Francisco's displaced playing in Arizona. So I find myself this week, a lot of these games, if they switch to half a point to a point, if it was 3.5, I'd take the Niners. Minus 2.5, I'll take Buffalo. I think they're a really good team. I think they make some dumb mistakes. I thought Josh Allen had a bad pick, had a bad fumble at the line of scrimmage. But overall, I like what Buffalo does.
Yeah, that was a phenomenal game, Buffalo Chargers. Now, they were missing John Brown, and Allen only threw for like 160 yards. Not a great game from him, but I did like what I saw from the defense. They had 11 tackles for loss, living in the backfield, 9 quarterback hits, and they ran for 172 yards. Those are areas they have not been strong in. So coming out of the bye, McDermott, as you love to say, he's one of the better coaches in the league, very underrated. But I'm curious, Carissa, do we know where in Arizona? Is this at the Cardinals Stadium?
I just know that it's being played in Arizona. Yes, actually it is.
Okay.
I do know that.
The last time Buffalo was there, they lost on the Hail Mary to Kyler Murray. Again, I don't know how that factors into the handicap at all, but they're going to want to exorcise the demons or whatever nonsense that could happen in Arizona.
Buffalo playing well as of late, won their last 4 or 5 and scoring over 28 points a game in each one of those contests. So let's move our attention now to a game that we touched on at the beginning of this. We got our Monday night game with the Seahawks and the Eagles, looking at 6.5 here and 48.5. Let's expand upon this a little bit. Colin, I know that you like Seattle. Anything that you can help our viewers sway because we're on both sides. Jason likes the Eagles. You like the Seahawks. Convince our audience that the Seahawks is the better pick.
Well, I don't love it now. I liked it more at 6 than 6.5, but I think Seattle's emerging pass rush. I think if you look at Pete Carroll's teams, they play well out east, and they tend to play well in the second half of seasons. Chris Carson is back. That's the kind of offense that Pete Carroll likes, a physical run downhill offense, throw on play action. I think Seattle, there's 3 teams in the league we all like: Steelers, Chiefs, Saints. The 4th best team every weekend, this week it was Tennessee. Last week it was the Rams. I think Seattle's potentially one of those teams, and I think Pete knows it. I think they've got a little bit of momentum here. They played their best defense in a while against Arizona. I think they want to keep it going. And the secondary for Seattle is problematic, but I don't think that'll be exposed with Jalen Hurts or Carson Wentz. So I like the matchup here for Seattle tonight, controlling the clock, winning the game by about a touchdown or more.
My name is Jason McIntyre, and I bet the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm embarrassed to admit that. Now, something you guys know about handicapping, okay? So the sports books, Fox Bet knows nobody is betting Philadelphia. Nobody. Why would anybody do that? They stink. They're terrible. Seattle has Russell Wilson. So what do? They have to inch the line up higher to entice some people to maybe bet on Philadelphia. And I think that's why I've been getting my teeth kicked in the last couple of weeks. I have not adjusted. The sports books have adjusted. Colin noted early, underdogs have been playing well. Primetime underdogs. Are you ready for this? 23-12 against the spread. Yes, I know the Bears got embarrassed last night, but these lines are higher. Fox Bet is increasing the line because they need to entice some action on that side. And I'm going to bet with the house tonight, and I'm embarrassed to admit it.
I like it. Hey, admitting you have a problem, Jason, is the first step to recovery. All right. So again, as we do every week, if you just can't decide on the team, but you want to be invested in a game, you can bet on an individual player. There are lots of prop bet options over on Fox Bet. Tonight, I'm going Chris Carson over 50.5 rushing yards. Colin's face says it all. That's right, Carson. Chris Carson, I'm going to bet on you over 50.5 on that one. And there's plenty more options. You like I got my
yes
cut out there. That means I really like this one. All right, so that's the prop bets. As I mentioned, there's plenty of other options over on Fox Bet. It's a fun way for you to get involved in the game as well. All right, moving right along, we are going to look. Is this game happening? Is this game not happening? The never-ending Baltimore Ravens and Pittsburgh Steelers game. So in this bad boy, we are looking at 10 and 40.5. I'm going to rely on our wonderful producer, Conrad, to tell us the most up-to-date information on this. I feel like the NFL is not going to show their hand quite yet, but this would be played on Tuesday. Colin, who do you like and why?
Well, it started at 3.5, and now with Lamar out, people question Lamar Jackson, but the minute he left, the line shot up. So, in this game, I tend to always take the underdog. This game historically is very close. And the line at 40.5, I would probably take Baltimore plus 10. I think, again, displaced teams playing a different night. I have too much respect for the Baltimore staff and the players to swallow 10. I'd probably take Baltimore.
There's 20 players on this list. 20 players.
I saw a number, Carissa. 7 offensive starters for the Ravens have tested positive and are out. You're relying on RG3 to get it done. Lamar Jackson, in his last 2 meetings with Pittsburgh, has been sacked 9 times, and he has 7 turnovers. I don't think RG3 is as good of a quarterback. I think he's in deep, deep trouble here. And I know 10's a big number, and I don't want to go against Colin here. But this is Pittsburgh Steelers or nothing for me. And I do want to thank the NFL for playing this game. Thank goodness we'll have something to watch on Tuesday night because we can't do anything out here in LA.
Hopefully, but I would like to also, here's my Sally from San Diego weather report. 80% chance of snow.
Oh, snow game.
At 33 degrees and 15-mile-an-hour winds. So good luck to everyone. The last time the Ravens practiced was Saturday. So keep all of that in mind. All right. Let's take a look at a question from a fan. Kyle P. was kind enough to write in this question, and he's asking, Colin, what advice do you have for betting on games that involve teams that are no longer in playoff contention and might have less motivation?
Well, I think it's a good question. I try to post Thanksgiving to bet teams that are in contention. I think it's a real thing. In the NFL, everybody's on tape, so I don't think you get a lot of guys dogging it. But, I do think there's teams playing with significant, Buffalo, San Francisco this week. Buffalo's playing for a home game in the playoffs. San Francisco, Nick Mullins is playing for an extension. I mean, I don't, and Kyle Shanahan's got a long contract. He's not coaching for a job. So I do think you get these mismatches where, Buffalo's one of my favorite picks this week because they want to, and Miami's hot. So they're playing for home field advantage in the playoffs. And I think it's a good question and something I look at all the time.
Love it. All right, gentlemen, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you guys for watching at home or wherever you're watching Talk the Line. He's Jason McIntyre, Colin Cowherd, and we will see you next week.